Are erectile dysfunction meds addictive? Well, I got some news for you. One of which is they're not only not addictive, they actually help men stop using them in a way. It's the exact opposite of what you think. Let's get right into it. All right, let's talk about what makes something addictive. Excuse me. Caffeine's a great example, right? You have to be able to build up a tolerance to it and go through withdrawals if you stop using it. Those are the two hallmarks of if something you can become dependent on or addicted to. So you guys know the drill. If you're addicted to caffeine and suddenly you stop drinking it, you get a headache, you get a little bit shaky. Same thing with nicotine. For those of you that are addicted to nicotine or alcohol, we all know the things that can become physically addictive. PDE5 inhibitors like Cialis and Viagra are definitely not that. To understand why they can't be addictive, you first have to understand how these medications work. They are phosphodiesterase type 5 inhibitors. So basically, they enhance the nitric oxide cGMP pathway in penile tissues. And that's it. And that is not a process that you eventually need more and more and more of unless there's some physical underlying reason, like you get older, or the vascular disease is why you were taking it to begin with, and that progresses and gets worse. You don't need more and more of it just because your body gets used to the medication. These medications also do not cause sexual arousal. In fact, they only work if you are already sexually aroused. Now, I'm sure if they did cause sexual arousal, there might be some addictive components to that, but they don't, so it's just not even a thing. So is there any data about this, or am I just a guy on YouTube claiming that to be true? Well, a little bit of both, but I'll show you the data right now. In a large 4-year open-label extension study of sildenafil, more than 90% of men remained satisfied each year and did not require escalating doses to maintain benefit. Same story with long-term tadalafil data. No pattern of dose escalation at all. Now, if you're a data nerd like me and you're always on PubMed or nowadays probably ChatGPT and you're searching through peer-reviewed scientific studies, I'm sure none of you are like that. I hope you're not like that anyway. You will find some studies that say that these things may be addictive. And it's a little hard to believe, but if you've looked at enough studies, you'll realize this, that even PhDs going through the peer-reviewed scientific research sometimes use language which basically means we guess, or we think, or we have a hunch, etc., right? But there is absolutely no data on the face of this earth showing that these medications are addictive in the way that people think about addictive properties of medications. When I was writing this YouTube script, I was trying to think of the word that is the opposite of addictive. So you guys tell me in the comments what word is the opposite of addictive, because that's what we're going to talk about now. Because these medications are not only not addictive, a lot of men take them for short periods of time. It helps them enough that they no longer have to use them. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about right now, because there are plenty of studies to that effect. What we're talking about right now is called psychogenic ED. And essentially, psychogenic ED is when you have some sort of mental issue, not mental illness, but just temporary thing going on in your head that prevents you from getting an erection or maintaining erection as long as you want. And a lot of us guys have been there. I'm not going to ask you to write this in the comments, might be embarrassing to you, but perhaps you have a new partner or it's a new location, trying to have sex in the car, whatever it is, right? And you want to, but there's just a little too much going on upstairs and it doesn't work out for you. Well, there's studies showing that men who are in pretty serious feedback loops can take PDE5 inhibitors like Cialis, Viagra, sildenafil, tadalafil, the generic names, for a short period of time. And that not only doesn't create physical dependence where they have to take it the rest of their life, it actually gets them out of that psychogenic feedback loop that they were in, so they can begin to have sex successfully without it. Every time I talk about studies, I can see the listenership drop, but I also don't want you to think I'm just a wacko on YouTube making stuff up. So I'll tell you what, I'll tell you about two and I'll make it real quick. How about that? Sildenafil discontinuation with maintained gains. A controlled clinical trial of men with acquired psychogenic ED reported that after sildenafil treatment, many improved, and at follow-up, 66% maintained post-treatment gains after sildenafil was discontinued. Another one is about tadalafil. In men who improved while taking tadalafil 5 milligrams once daily for about a year, about 46% continued to show improvement compared with baseline after a 4-week treatment-free period. What does this mean? This means these men had something going on upstairs. Taking an ED medication helped them stop worrying about their erection, allowed themselves to kind of free their mind and enjoy themselves. And after several weeks of successful sex, guess what? They didn't even need the medication anymore. And that is amazing. Because what I fear is happening is that there are many men out there, maybe young men, maybe healthy men, who are dealing with ED, possibly because of mental issues, the psychogenic ED that we talked about. And they're worried about getting on treatment simply because they think this might be something they have to do the rest of their life, like testosterone replacement therapy, for example. But it's actually the exact opposite for many of these men, that they can take this medication under doctor supervision, of course, and this is not medical advice, allow them to get more comfortable with that partner, that situation, whatever it is, rebuild their confidence. Because those of you who have had ED know what happens when you do nothing about it. You're embarrassed because you couldn't get an erection when you wanted to. And guess what you're thinking about the next time you're with that partner? You're thinking, oh God, please let it work today. Please, please, please. And that is a very, very, very fast shortcut to making sure that it doesn't. Well, I hope you learned something. And if you did, please be sure to leave us a like. We can take care of a lot of your sexual health needs at shamelesscare.com. And you know what is addictive? Subscriptions. We don't do subscriptions at shamelesscare.com. So if you find yourself in a toxic relationship with a subscription mill, telehealth provider, we got your back at shamelesscare.com. Talk soon.